Fading future, shattered dreams. End of times ain't what it seems.
Hello, friends. This is Sam Chaney reporting for Weaponized News. Today's May 29th, 2026. Thank you for joining us on this Friday edition of Weaponized News. We have quite a bit to get to today on day 91 of the Iran war. The back and forth between the White House and Iran. We're going to go over those details as the Strait of Hormuz is still effectively closed. Are we going to, as in we, America, Trump administration, going to pay Iran a whole bunch of money? We're going to take a look at that. As America 250 celebrations there in Washington, D.C. are collapsing with performers canceling. We're going to take a look at that. Should they be forced to perform for Trump? We're going to take a look at I guess we have to come up with a new word. We're going to take a look at this very underreported intelligence agency here now, and I guess we have to change up our wording on this. I haven't come up with a new one yet, but we're going to take a look at it. Don't be critical of these tech centers, let's say. They're turning the screws on that. We're going to take another look today, a little bit deeper dive at Peter Thiel's exit to Argentina. We have economics news. We have the fallout from Pam Bondi, former Attorney General, testimony today to the House Oversight Committee in regards to the Epstein files. We'll take a look at all of that. We have geopolitical news, as per usual. And they're leveling Lebanon as we speak and continuing the genocide in Gaza as we speak. Quite horrifically enough. We'll take a look at that. What is going on with the secret war in Mexico, Central and South America? We'll take a look at that as well. A whole lot of news on this Friday edition of Weaponized News. Let's get to see some people coming online here now. Shout out to Mac. Mac did have a contribution I saw in the email to this day in history, so don't let me forget that. Okay, let's get to this day in history. When was it? 1860. So we got to put it about right here. About right here. Let's just line that up. All right. On this day in history. On this day in history of May 29th, we go back to the year 1453, and we saw the fall of Constantinople. Constantinople, capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, falls to the Ottoman Turks on this day, ending the Byzantine Empire after 1,100 years. So Turkey had a big celebration. I saw about this, the fall of Constantinople on this day, 1453. On this day in 1727, Peter II becomes Tsar of Russia at the age of 11. 1733, on this day, the right of Canadians to keep Indian slaves is upheld in Quebec City. On this day in 1765, Patrick Henry's historic speech against the Stamp Act, answering the cry of treason with, "If this be treason, make the most of it." 1860, on this day, via Mac, says, in the history of the Pony Express, on this day, May 29th, is the most notable for the heavy operational disruptions caused by the Pyramid Lake War, 1860, during the Native American conflict. Hostile Bitchute attacks forces, the suspension of service, burned stations, and halted mail deliveries in the Nevada territories. On this day in 1866, American pharmacist John Pemberton begins advertising his patented medicine, Coca-Cola, in Atlanta, Georgia. And I do believe that version of the Coca-Cola had the cocaine in it as well for that extra boost. On this day in 1916, official flag of President of the United States is adopted. Also on this day in 1916, U.S. forces invade Dominican Republic, stay until 1924 for their own good, of course. And on this day in 1919, Charles Strite files a patent for the automatic pop-up toaster. On this day in 1932, the bonus army of World War I veterans begins to assemble in Washington, D.C. to request cash bonuses promised to them to be paid in 1945. 1943, on this day, meat and cheese ration in the U.S. And I'm going to call here now for meat and cheese rationing to come back, because we have these tech centers to build, and that's what takes precedent. It's a national security issue, and we have to beat China. Right? Right. So we need to bring back food and cheese rationing here. Oh, they are through inflation. So good job there, guys. They're ahead of me on this. 1953, on this day, Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay are the first to reach the summit of Mount Everest as part of a British expedition. 1954, on this day, now it's officially recognized. They denied the thing even existed for a very long time. But on this day in 1954, first of the annual Bilderberg conferences, fostering relations between Europe and North America, held there in Oosterbeek, Netherlands. And so they're just trying to foster good relations there at the Bilderberg group meetings. 1968, on this day, U.S. Truth in Lending Act signed into law. And of course, all the lenders out there are always fully truthful with their borrowers. That's been established by the U.S. Truth in Lending Act, signed on this day in 1968. On this day in 1987, jury finds Twilight Zone movie director John Landis innocent of involuntary death of actor Vic Morrow and two child actors during the filming of the Twilight Zone movie. 1989, on this day, Goddess of Democracy. And talk about a triple trick here. 1989, student pro-democracy protesters in Tiananmen Square, China, construct a replica of the Statue of Liberty, naming it the Goddess of Democracy. And then you look into what the Statue of Liberty is. Man, oh man. Talk about a triple trick psyop running right there. On this day, in 2014, President Barack Hussein Obama, a.k.a. Barry Soetoro, approves U.S. military training of, quote, moderate Syrian rebels to fight the regime of Assad, former leader there in Syria, and Al-Qaeda linked groups. And so we're doing the same thing again. It's kind of our thing. Create these proxy armies and then call them terrorists after they don't do what you say, and then whack them. And so that trend continues out of Western intelligence operations. And on this day in 2019, U.S. Special Counselor Robert Mueller says charging President Trump with a crime was never an option, as no legal means to charge a sitting president, and that this report does not exonerate the president, i.e., Russia Gate. There. So, some great work by Robert Mueller as special counselor there to actually do nothing. So we do appreciate those efforts and dragging America through the mud in that scandal. And then here's our segue to the news. I guess we'll say this one, even though it's a Steen, we'll throw it in there. What the hell? 1950, on this day in our civil liberties history, businessman, civil liberties best defense against isms, Jacob Blaustein, a Baltimore businessman and civic leader, received an award on this day from the Aardvark War veterans. In his acceptance speech, he declared protection of civil liberties is America's best defense against communism and fascism. So pick your ism there. He further advocated giving all Americans, regardless of race, creed, or national origin, the right to take advantage of the opportunities in the United States. Well, sounds like hate to me. All right. And then here's our segue. What is our segue, actually? Do we have video segue? We didn't even really have video segue. No video segue, sadly, today. So SGT reports. That's a big show out there. They've been around a while. They say, and they keep trying to talk to these ops running Q ops. They say Trump has fast tracked the. I guess you can't even say that word anymore. The permitting of these centers, given immunity to Bayer's glyphosate, taking $250 million from Adelson, ordered the FBI to cover up Charlie Kirk and Epstein, devastated the global energy and food supply, all while insider trading and enriching himself to the tune of billions. If this is the MAGA that these other characters report on, still support, one can only conclude those gents must be military intel ops. You think? So the America 250 performance is not going well here now. These performers have canceled. And I think maybe we should start advocating they're forced to perform at the point of a gun, because this is America and you will do what the leader says. So these performers have dropped out of the performance here now. Here's the UFC. And so it is bread and circus in your face, like writ large, i.e. idiocracy. Here's UFC. They're building the cage for the cage fighting match, quite literally right on the White House front lawn, as you can see in these images of the construction. So really all that matters is this promotion of violence and blood sports in America, not the cost of your groceries. You see, Trump's America 250 concert lineup is collapsing. Multiple artists are dropping out of Trump's Great American State Fair, a 16-day celebration on the National Mall starting June 25th and running through July 10th, billed as a nonpartisan 250th American anniversary event. The lineup has lost nearly 2/3 of its acts in the last 48 hours. Martina McBride, country star, said she was assured this was a nonpartisan event celebrating all 50 states. After the Trump administration connection became public, she withdrew, saying she was misled. Bret Michaels, a Poison hairband fame from the 80s, called the event divisive and cited threats to his family and crew. Originally scheduled to perform July 3rd, Morris Day announced it was a no for me. William King of the Commodores withdrew, saying, "Our music has always been our voice, and we choose not to publicly affiliate with any single political party." Young MC revealed that the artists were never told about any political involvement with the event. Milli Vanilli, vocalist, said they were not performing at the event. I think that was a funny at the end of this report from DD Geopolitics. I think that was a little bit of a funny, but what the hell? Let them all council, bring in Milli Vanilli, have them lip sync, and that's a perfect illustration of the Trump administration. Fake it till you make it, and art of the steal here now. Freedom 250, the nonprofit organizing the fair, marketed it to performers as a nonpartisan celebration. Artists only learned of Trump's White House task force being directly involved in coordinating the event after they accepted to perform at the event. The event is overtly MAGA coded. Make America Healthy Again Monday, Christian prayer events, UFC fights on Trump's birthday, and a PragerU history exhibit. So the only ones we have left of the performers are Vanilla Ice, Flo Rida, and maybe CNC Music Factory, but we're not quite sure if they're going to back out yet. They may very well back out. So a sign of the times. They need to be rounded up and forced to perform for America, because this is America. Earlier today, not much out of the White House regarding the Iran war, as we're on day 91 here now of the Iran war. Trump can't meme. He can't, they're just failing on all fronts. Here's Trump's big old post earlier today about the Iran war. Iran must agree that they will never have a nuclear weapon or bomb. The Hormuz Strait must be immediately open. No tolls for unrestricted shipping traffic in both directions. All water mines, bombs, if any, will be terminated. We have removed through detonation numerous such mines with our great underwater minesweepers. Iran will complete the immediate removal and or detonation of any mines that are left, which will not be many. Ships caught in the strait due to our amazing and unprecedented naval blockade, which will now be lifted, may start the process of heading home. Say hello to your wives, husbands, parents, and families from me, your favorite president. The enriched material, sometimes referred to as nuclear dust, which is buried deep underground with virtually collapsed mountains caused by our powerful B-2 bomber attack 11 months ago, sitting on top of it will be unearthed by the United States, which it is agreed is the only country, along with China, with the mechanical capability of doing so, in close coordination and conjunction with the Islamic Republic of Iran, plus the International Atomic Energy Agency, and destroyed. No money will be exchanged until further notice. Other items of far less importance have been agreed to. I will be meeting now in the Situation Room to make a final determination. And that was earlier today, and the reports say Trump has made no final determination. And what does Iran have to say about all this? Iran and Oman coordinate on Hormuz administration as Trump threatens to blow up Muscat. Iranian Foreign Minister Odysee called his Omani counterpart Bitchute earlier today, expressing solidarity with Oman in face of any threat and discussing the future administration of the Strait of Hormuz. According to statements from both sides, both governments said they reaffirmed their commitment to ensuring freedom of maritime navigation through the strait in accordance with their sovereign responsibilities over their territorial waters, in conformity with international law and preserving the interests of all regional and international parties. Odysee said the two sides welcome consultation with the neighboring states on Hormuz's future administration, language that pushes back on Washington's demand that the strait operate under U.S. defined terms with no fees or Iranian management role. The call comes one day after Trump threatened Oman directly, saying Oman will behave just like everybody else or we'll have to blow them up. Sanctions announced today by the U.S. Treasury. U.S. announces it seized $1 billion in Iranian crypto assets. Treasury Secretary Bitchute said earlier today the United States authorities have seized approximately $1 billion in Iranian digital assets as part of a sanctions enforcement across Tehran. U.S. Central Command posted earlier today, U.S. forces continue to enforce the blockade against Iran as of May 29th. Today, 115 commercial vessels have been redirected to ensure no commerce enters or leaves Iranian ports. Iran's Persian Gulf Authority to the United States: you will not gain control over Hormuz through sanctions either. Iran's Persian Gulf Authority, sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury 2 days ago on Wednesday, fired back today, saying it considers being sanctioned by a country whose leader takes pride in piracy as a sign of its own positive performance. You will not gain control over the Strait of Hormuz, which you failed to achieve through warfare and diplomacy by means of sanctions either, the Persian Gulf Strait Authority said earlier today. The body added that despite provocative actions of the United States in the waters of the Persian Gulf and the Sea of Oman, it continues to review and grant passage permits to non-hostile vessels without interruption. It said statistics from the first month of operations will be published soon. Satellite imagery shows Iran loading supertanker. Satellite imagery captured earlier today shows Iran loading a supertanker at the port of Jask on the Gulf of Oman coast outside the Strait of Hormuz rather than its main oil terminal at the Crag Island, according to Bloomberg energy reporter Jarvis Blass, citing European Space Agency Sentinel-2 data. Blass said Iran appears to be positioning for the U.S. to lift its naval blockade with more than 50 barrels in floating storage ready to export. Draft of the U.S. MOU breaches 8 of the 10 approved terms by Khomeini, insider says. And this is a report of Iran International. Iranian state TV says that Iran's negotiating team in the Islamabad talks said earlier today that the draft memorandum of understanding with the United States violates 8 of the 10 conditions approved by the regime we changed, Khomeini, right? Sure. And contradicts the Supreme and National Security Council's ceasefire statement. IRGC state media outlet disputes Trump's accounts of emerging Iran deal. Claims by U.S. President Donald Trump about a possible agreement with Iran are, quote, a mix of truth and lies and do not reflect the draft terms being reviewed in Tehran. IRGC affiliated Fars News reported. They're doing the same thing again. We're this close to a peace deal, bro. Iran says, what are you talking about, bro? Are you on the shoe phone with Kushner, the can phone? Somebody's lying, probably both sides lying. And we're this close, yet this far away from any meaningful peace on Iran war day 91, it seems. A mix of truth and lies coming out of Trump, continually gaming the market and profiteering. IRGC state media out of Iran said they're looking for immediate payment of $12 billion in Iranian assets, adding that Tehran would not enter any further phase of negotiations until the money's released. Some major sticking points here. The Times of Israel reports emerging U.S. Iran MOU said to reference possible $300 billion post-war investment fund to aid Tehran in reconstruction. Huh? I was told we changed the regime, we beat their military, sunk their navy, everything's golden. Turns out none of that's true. And we're over a barrel in peace negotiations with Iran right now. Head of Iran's Parliamentary Security Commission said Iran sets the terms as the victor on the field. I thought we defeated. Trump told me we won the war. Not according to Iran. No, they're saying they won the war. Yet we're still in a war. A mix of truth and lies. We're in a Persian standoff. still on day 91 of the Iran war. And the rest of the world suffers fuel shortages, all kind of different inputs to industrial society, fertilizer, food shortages. Go down the list. Engineered famine. Day 91 of the Iran war. They did a big troll job yesterday out of the White House. Aliens.gov. I mean, what do you even say at this point? It's not cute. It's not funny. Look over there. Well, the government, you drop the soap, and the government says, hey, you dropped the soap. You get what I'm saying? They say, look over there, you drop the soap. It's just, none of it's cute, none of it's funny. It's disgusting. Have you seen the price of groceries? Well, thankfully, they're using our, I think I had this queued up, but what the heck, I came across and don't want to miss it. Thank you to the Weaponized News audience out there reporting while we were live yesterday. Thankfully, they're spending our money blowing up these billionaires' vanity projects of big penises being shot into space with their rockets. Origin Blue rocket exploded yesterday on the launch pad. But hey, they got a couple $1 billion contract with the Department of War. So it's all part of the game. Let's watch that explosion here on the launch pad. Thankfully, our taxpayer money and national debt are growing exponentially, and it's fun for billionaires to blow up their replications of large penises on the launch pad and have you and I pay for it. Let's take a look at the explosion of Blue Origin rocket, tragically enough, yesterday in Florida. No audio here. And so, yeah, that happens. And then what does the Department of War say? Well, I guess they got the contract before this. So just for the hell of it, they're like, blow the rocket up. We got another couple billion out of the taxpayers. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like, literally, they don't care. It's not their money. So, we have to be careful about our reporting now, apparently, to all reports out there. So it's a good thing. You should probably sign up to be part of the new trend here. NVIDIA will pay you. This is a video posted by Hotspot on the X. They say NVIDIA will pay you $22,000 a year to install a mini one of these centers on your house. And so if you like the smart meter, you'll especially enjoy this Imperial spy drone on the side of your house. And you can be paid for it as well. Let's watch this clip.
So this mini AI data center is designed to be installed outside your home. A startup called Span has partnered with NVIDIA to deploy what they call distributed data centers on residential homes and small businesses. Each box runs NVIDIA's liquid-cooled RTX Pro 6000 Blackwell GPUs designed to operate silently while tapping into unused electrical capacity that already is on the local grid. Span says it can install 8,000 of these units 6 times faster at 1/5 the cost of building a comparable 100 megawatt data center. And the demand is urgent. US data centers consumed over 4% of America's electricity in 2024, which is a number that could more than double by 2030. Meanwhile, traditional data centers can take over a decade to build, with some projects waiting years just for grid approval. The homeowners who host the boxes get a premium smart electrical panel, battery backup, and discounted rates on electricity and internet. Span is already working with one of America's largest home builders to test the system out in new communities. Whether neighborhoods will actually embrace these mini data centers remains to be seen, but it's definitely a creative solution to a very complex problem. If you want to stay in the loop with the latest in
You will embrace this or you're a terrorist. Do you hear me? So we're now pro these centers, pro corruption, pro technocracy, or you will be put on the terrorist list. Jimmy says, it's fun. Jimmy says on the YouTube, we've reached the point Democrats are that conservative party now. Holy ass. Wowzers. Wowzers, wowzers, and wowzers. Yeah, it's exciting times. Don't be an extremist. Don't fight the data centers, okay? And don't threaten any people. You see, because we're in a race. We're in a race here now against China, and everything needs to be thrown at this. Anna Paulina Luna said the CCP has launched an all-out war against American AI. The divide we are seeing in this country is largely driven by bots and paid actors violating FARA. Who knew? I didn't know until I read this story. Klippenstein on his Substack page, Congress CIA eyes AI data center critics. And so, see, we've now shifted and we're pro data centers now. But a little bit about this that we should probably know. It says in this article, as rage about artificial intelligence and data centers powering is growing, Congress is taking notice, not with any legislation or law, but by spying on public opposition. A newly created intelligence agency of the Congress, our representatives, they're looking out for us, bro. They represent us in American democracy in the golden age. A newly created intelligence agency of the Congress, yes, it has its own now, is warning that legislators are in danger from an angry public. The U.S. Capitol Police Intelligence Services Bureau, created after January 6th, and in parallel to the 18-member executive branch intelligence community, laid out the warning in an internal intelligence report produced in April last month. ISB has prepared this intelligence note to provide the U.S. Capitol Police and law enforcement personnel with information related to recent threats and attacks likely linked to grievances concerning data centers, the report says. And then here's I'll post a link at Weaponized News Substack, or you can go to Klippenstein Substack and read it. Continuing here, there's only one problem. The report admits that there is no evidence of any actual threat to Congress. The United States Capitol Police is not investigating any data center motivated threats to members of Congress, the report says. Nonetheless, it goes on to warn that artificial intelligence related policies introduced on the Hill and in local communities are likely to continue drawing opposition, increasing potential concerns for public officials. Pre-thought crime warning there. And so we do appreciate those efforts from the ISB, Intelligence Services Bureau. The Congressional Intelligence Office that authored the report was formed in the aftermath of J6 and justified to bring the Congressional police force in line with federal intelligence agencies and thereby gain more access to massive existing intelligence community. The quote intelligence note was also distributed to police organizations and state level fusion centers across the country. We now have a world-class intelligence operation. Then Chief of the U.S. Capitol Police, Thomas Manger, said last May, we are significant players in the intelligence community in Washington, D.C. region and, frankly, all over the country. Whereas before we were consumers of information. The FBI would give us intelligence. Other agencies would give us intelligence. Now we're gathering our own, as it should be, because there's not enough surveillance in this country. So we added one more intelligence gathering operation here for our safety. He went on to say, threatening the politicians who actually make decisions is actually logical. Another social media post wrote, I would rather, they talk about doing violence. Don't do violence. Don't threaten these people. It's pretty simple. I think that's been well established here now. 7 in 10 Americans oppose local construction of AI data centers, according to a Gallup poll published in March, the first 2 weeks of March. Here's that. And so, yeah, that's where we're at here with the ISB now. Keeping the world safe for you and me and technocracy in the golden age, and we wouldn't have it any other way. On to Peter Thiel, head man of technocracy. He's looking out for us, because the Antichrist is going to come get us. Let's hear a little bit about Peter Thiel keeping us safe.
In some sense, the Antichrist as an idea is something that really comes into being in the world after Christ. And so there's a lot of things about it that are mysterious. In some ways, the Antichrist copies Christ. The Antichrist pretends to be greater than Christ, hyper-Christian, ultra-Christian, and then maybe only ultimately, deeply anti-Christian.
American actor Duncan Trussell, he went to Trump's Antichrist lecture. Let's hear what his take on this whole thing was.
Bizarre hybrid. On one side, you've got kind of like, somebody who's been living in the world of the transhumanists for decades. Somebody who, that's his life. It's a tech bro. And on the other side, you have someone who appears to be taking the book of Revelation literally, right? So it's this combo meeting. And so it felt like he was saying that there might be a way to patch the book of Revelation. Like a tech guy being like, we can control alt delete the book of Revelation. I think there's a way we can maybe forestall the emergence of the Antichrist. That there could be things that, so in other words, you're taking it literally, but maybe the book of Revelation is more of an invitation to fix the apocalypse. When I've always taken it, if you decide to take it literally, it's more of this is just sort of what you can expect when pre-singularity, whatever you want to call it, collapse of civilization. This is what happens at the end of things, and there are all these things you should look out for, but also sort of unavoidable.
Do you think he takes it literally? Do you think he really believes this stuff, or do you think there's some sort of ulterior motive? Because it seems so strange. There's been all these articles coming out in the New York Times and the New York Post, how I haven't been there, so I don't know, but like how Silicon Valley has been transformed into this like Christian, like mega city. And they're trying to paint, and people like Peter Thiel are trying to paint Christianity onto everything that's happening in Silicon Valley. There's like this big church there, and Silicon Valley's been historically like an anti-religious place.
Right.
There's been no religion in Silicon Valley.
Right. Well, I mean, I think what's really interesting about Christian eschatology and like Ray Kurzweil, sort of Terence McKenna's singularity predictions, is you're looking at basically the same thing. Like probably, you know, there's a reason all of these people are like buying property in New Zealand and building like.
Peter Thiel's relocated to Argentina. Let's watch this report about it. All for the good of the world.
A storm is rolling in over Argentina. The man who wrote the words, "I no longer believe that freedom and democracy are compatible," a billionaire that champions many of the ideals central to the philosophy known as the Dark Enlightenment, which views democracy as a failed experiment. He built a company that tracks, monitors and targets human beings all over the world. Peter Thiel just bought the most expensive house in Buenos Aires for $12 million. But why has he come to Argentina? And what might this mean for the country's future? So why has Peter Thiel bought the most expensive house in Buenos Aires? Why is he here? The first possible explanation is that he might just like the area. Palermo Chico is the most exclusive neighbourhood in Buenos Aires, and Thiel's massive 17,200 square foot home is right here in the middle of it. Now, I'd never usually stand outside of somebody's home and film it, but I didn't feel too bad in this case, given Thiel's affinity for surveillance. He's the co-founder and chairman of the board of Palantir and has a net worth of $30 billion. For him, buying this home is like someone with a net worth of $100,000 buying a home for just $40. Perhaps he just did it because he could, but given the current political situation here in Argentina, this strikes me as unlikely. The second possible explanation is that Thiel sees Argentina as a fertile ground to sow the seeds of the Dark Enlightenment. He's a prominent financial backer and key figure of this Silicon Valley-born philosophy that argues democracy has failed and that society would be better run as if it were a tech startup, meaning one founder at the top making unilateral decisions with no need to ask voters for permission. Thiel has spent millions and millions funding like-minded politicians in the US. Here in Argentina, Milei is already at the top of government and is currently running the most radical libertarian experiment on earth. The both of them are self-described anarcho-capitalists. Back in his ominous 2009 essay, The Education of a Libertarian, Thiel wrote, "The fate of our world may depend on the effort of a single person who builds or propagates the machinery of freedom that makes the world safe for capitalism." So maybe he sees Milei as a key ingredient in his recipe to save the world. The third and final, fairly simple explanation. There's just huge amounts of money to be made for Thiel and Palantir in Argentina. His flourishing ideological friendship with Milei could open many doors for him in the near future. Palantir has made huge sums of money operating at the heart of US intelligence, which uses its software for population monitoring, tracking migrants, and of course, for war. Argentina recently created a new AI security unit, and Milei also just signed an AI collaboration deal with Israel. Thiel named Palantir after Palantiri, the all-seeing stones from Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, which allow users to see events happening in other times and places. As one of the co-founders of PayPal and the first outside investor in Facebook, Thiel has a knack for spotting opportunities early on. So what might this all mean for Argentina? Well, the country is being run by a president who worships the free market. Real estate here is currently about 80% cheaper than New York and London. There's very little tech regulation and a time zone that overlaps with the US East Coast. According to numerous reports, more of Thiel's associates and colleagues might be on the way, as they're looking at properties across the city. So will Buenos Aires become the new hub for Silicon Valley capital? History has shown time and time again that US interests in Latin America are bad news for the people of this region. But Argentina has weathered far worse storms than tech billionaires playing at being supervillains. 30,000 people were murdered or disappeared by the military dictatorship that took power here just 50 years ago. Argentinians have not forgotten what happens when their democracy is threatened, and they will fight tooth and nail to defend it. With his fundamentally anti-democratic beliefs, I don't think Peter Thiel will be a popular new neighbour in Buenos Aires.
Well, there you go. Argentinians don't want to save the world. And we got Censored Sergeant over there trolling in our YouTube chat. I could see you're on the wrong channel, Censored Sergeant, because we're we're not trusting the plan here, bro. Sorry to report to you. This report out of the FCC, they're going after Disney. I'm not fooled by this. They're using DEI as a cover. Disney's deep military industrial complex. So don't let the rainbow cover fool you here now. And the infighting there on the surface publicly by the government against Disney, because they fully support it. You better believe it. On to where we at? Yeah, we can get through. We'll try to get through Epstein section before the break there. I guess the trolls on YouTube keep the chat going. All right, here's top Democrats claim Pam Bondi pushed blame for Epstein investigation to Todd Blanche in closed door meeting that they weren't allowed to record. Sadly enough here. And I think we have video of it. Former Attorney General Pam Bondi tells lawmakers Ghislaine Maxwell should die in prison. Bondi refused to answer lawmakers' questions about Trump's involvement in the Epstein files release. That's a report out of the Associated Press. And then I do believe we have some videos here. Oh, never forget this clown show of clownfluencers. Straight up feds that act like they're independent media. They're not. These jokers. Their op was blowing right there for anybody with eyes to see. 100%. Here's the proposed new $250 bill. Notice the resemblance there. That's not really it, but you get the gist. Here's a short clip from Tama Palmieri about Bondi's testimony.
Pam Bondi's been brought back into the White House through this AI panel. The White House just appoints her to that. So they're keeping her close to best. The way that Trump world works and the way we know that Washington works, where people gravitate towards power for relevance, for money, et cetera, she will probably be thinking about that, since she's still technically being employed by the president, and how she testifies, which will eventually be public because these transcripts will come out weeks later. I mean, they'll be scrutinized, And if they're anything like what she said publicly, she'll just be standing there in defense of Donald Trump because she's got something to lose now. You know, access to the White House, an AI panel, which is frankly one of the most important topics that's being fought over right now outside of the Epstein files.
Again, we will not be able to see this live when it's happening. We will not ever get to see a video of it. It will be transcribed, so ultimately we should learn what transpires behind these.
Maybe you'll get the transcript. Here's Robert Garcia, head Democrat, troublemaker on the House Oversight Committee.
Robert Garcia, the leader of House Democrats on the committee. I just want to be very clear that we continue to be incredibly disappointed of the decision to not have this interview videotaped and then released to the American public. The second thing we asked Chairman Comer is to ensure that this interview is under oath. We understand the Attorney General is going to be there answering questions from Congress. It should have been under oath and it should be videotaped. We obviously have a lot of questions as it relates to why only 50% of the files have been released, why many of the survivors were literally put in danger by the way the files were released, that private information should never have been released, and of course, why this continues to be some type of cover-up. And so those are our questions. There's many questions will be here for the next few hours, but it's really important that we get to the truth.
The cover-up continues. And I do see the insults over there on the, I don't even know how to moderate because I don't censor, but you're very rude there, censored Sergeant, to the chats, and it's not appreciated or wanted here at Weaponized News. So if you can't have an intelligent conversation to add to the chat, then just cut it, dude, with the baiting trolling. It's just stupid. You're not winning any friends over with your trolling.
Asked the former AG 5 times and 5 different questions about her conversations with President Trump, whether he directed her at any given time on the Epstein files, what he knew, what he asked her to redact or not, and she refused to answer any questions about President Trump. In fact, she said that she would not speak or respond to any questions that had anything to do with President Trump. It's also interesting that sitting next to her is DOJ counsel, somebody that currently works for the Department of Justice, who on multiple occasions stepped in and told the former Attorney General that she was not going to answer those questions, and especially when we asked questions of what the president directed her to do. And so the DOJ is in there right now stopping questions about President Trump and about what happened in the release of these files and why so many survivors were doxxed and their information, of course, released to them.
And here you have it right here from these. Stop running your Q psyops. Okay? Stop running them. Stop running them in my chat. Here's some Epstein survivors.
I'm here with Charlene Rochard, an Epstein survivor. Now, Charlene, what is one thing you want the public to know during today's Pam Bondi testimony?
I want the public to know that we're here for actually the public. We are here for you because not only do we want the truth and transparency, but the public deserves it as well. There are so many leads. This is a global sex trafficking ring, and we need to protect the next generation from this happening again.
What kind of leads are you talking about that the public may not be aware of?
Well, I have this right here, and this says the prominent names, and I'm just going to read them to you. Trump, Weinstein, Glenn Dubin, Prince Andrews, Jess Daly, Leon Black, Les Wexner, Alan Dershowitz, Bill Clinton, Howard Lutnick, William Barr, and I'd like to add, and Dyken Khan.
Thank you so much, Charlene.
I'm gonna have to block you, bro. And I don't even block people. I don't want your QBS in my chat.
An Epstein survivor. Danny, what do you want the people to know during today's Pam Bondi deposition?
We just hope that she's a little bit more truthful than she's been in the past. We really need to know and get to the bottom of why the redactions were what they were. We need to know about why the release happened in this slow rollout, and we need to really follow investigative leads.
Now, when you talk about investigative leads, is there anything the public may not be aware of when it comes to the files and what's in them?
There are so many leads in the files. We've seen lists of names from the FBI, of people that needed to be investigated. And I'd love to share with you one message that was to Leon Black. So this says, "Hi, I would like to have a copy of the NDA I signed. Can you please email it to me?" Blank, right? Thank you. This is on October 16th. Later on it says, "Leon, you sexually harassed me, sex trafficked me, raped me, and eventually blacklisted me. I don't know for how much longer it will take me on my own to process the pain you caused me and my family. The least thing you can do is to give me that document that I was forced to sign under duress and wasn't able to read before signing. Unfortunately, I am still tied to you." So that is one example of many, many investigative leads that really need to be followed up on.
Here's Representative Stansberry out of New Mexico.
If Pam Bondi was complying with a congressional deposition to testify under oath, Department of Justice attorneys would not be intervening and essentially trying to stop her from answering basic questions about her conversations with Donald Trump, with the administration, and trying to claim that she does not have to answer questions. In fact, as the ranking member said, she has been asked multiple times about the Trump administration, about her conversations with the president, about her conversations with other administration officials. And when asked specifically about a conversation with Donald Trump, one of the Department of Justice attorneys intervened and said that she did not have to answer the question because it was a voluntary interview, and said, in fact, quote, "We don't even have to assert privilege because of that," and said, quote, "We refuse to provide answers." That means that the United States Department of Justice is intervening on behalf of Pam Bondi to stop her from answering questions about what happened in the cover-up of this case and her conversations with Donald Trump, and is asserting that she does not have to answer questions because she is not required to, because she is not being deposed under oath. This is a cover-up. This will be remembered as the largest cover-up likely in American history.
Word. Bondi had some reply to this for the fair, what is it called? Fair use, fair time, whatever the hell that thing was. We got to give both sides. She did have some replies to all this on her X account. She said that this is misrepresentation. Here it is. Let's see. And of course, I guess we won't know about the back and forth drama. This is all created until the transcript is released. Misrepresentation by Wilkinshaw. What the world knows to be true is President Trump banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago decades ago because Epstein was a despicable creep. That's the Q narrative out there that they want you to believe. I don't believe it, because we have more than enough evidence to suggest that that's all BS. Why is Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., why did he marry Epstein's personal banker's daughter? We covered that yesterday. All right, let's take our live commercial break here now. Everybody go to weaponizednews.com/shop. Get yourself a holograph sticker over there. You have the white background sticker and the clear sticker. weaponizednews.com/shop. I'll report independent reporting and analysis brought to you 5 days a week. Broadcasting live, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern Time. weaponizednews.com/shop. Get yourself some merchandise over there at the store. We have baseball hats, t-shirts, stickers, a bunch of different gear, a couple custom shirts you may like. Taxation staff out there. weaponizednews.com/shop. Become a patron to the store. Become a paid subscriber to Weaponized News Substack. We don't put anything behind a paywall. You get the full show, a summary of the show, and links to almost everything we talk about for documentation and further research purposes at Weaponized News Substack. We take donations as well. Go to Buy Me a Coffee, Bitcoin wallet address, and Cash App links all in the description below this video. Any which way you choose to support us is truly appreciated. Give me that like, share, subscribe, and push that notification button. weaponizednews.com/shop. All the links are in the description below this video. Any which way you choose to support us is appreciated. Again, thank you to all of the subscribers, to the patrons of the store, and the donors. And everybody that shares and gives us that like. The like does help. I have my fill of dopamine, so I'm not doing it for the dopamine hits. It does help raise your rankings in the algorithms, allegedly. Those likes do help. So give us that like, share, subscribe, and push that notification button so you can be informed when we go live here. If any of these buttons even work anymore. Half the time they're broken, reports say. So we do what we can here. Thank you for your attention to this matter. All right, welcome back to the second half of Weaponized News on this Friday, May 29th, 2026 edition. Now we're going to take a look at the economy. What is this? Everyone is making things bigger than they really are just because TDS is allowing it. Stop the orange man bad crude. Well, if you like corruption, you should like Trump a whole lot. So we don't like Democrat corruption or Republican corruption. I know it's horrific.
Been a better outcome because I do agree. Iran having a nuclear weapon may be the biggest threat facing mankind. Because if they have it, so will Egypt, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, South Korea, Philippines, Japan, Australia, and then I don't know how you stop real proliferation at that point. Been a better outcome because I do agree.
Glad top banker there, CEO of JP Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon, agrees that even though it's been debunked, we've reported on it. Our own intelligence community has debunked the claim that Iran's nuclear program is an imminent threat. And the State Department also debunked these claims coming out of Trump. MAGA should enjoy this level of corruption because that's where we've sunken to. Vietnam moves its dead for Trump golf course. Report out of the Financial Times. And so I'm sure MAGA loves this. Project has become symbolically important for relations between Washington and Hanoi. In a small cemetery nestled between fruit farms in northern Vietnam, farmers who for decades buried their dead near family plantations are digging up the graves. They are dismantling the cemetery to make way for a $1.5 billion golf course and luxury presidential project by the Trump organization and its local partners. Big banks are raking in record profits as market turbulence shows no sign of easing. JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon cites exuberance, saying his bank's trading business could top expectations this quarter. Yeah, he's getting some inside knowledge there for parroting the, oh my gosh, 2 weeks or Iran's going to nuke us, bro. You see how this works? Do you see how this works? Americans are falling behind on their $1.25 trillion credit card bill, reported out of the Wall Street Journal. Soaring interest rates and stubborn inflation have led to the highest delinquencies on credit card debt since the financial crisis, a pattern of survival debt. U.S. Space Force has awarded SpaceX, Musk company, $4.6 billion contract to assess airborne threats. Donald Trump's been fined $200. That's less than his $250 bill that used to be $5. He was fined $200 after he was months late to report buying and selling millions of stocks. A U.S. judge has temporarily blocked President Trump's administration from setting up a nearly $1.8 billion fund to compensate victims of what Trump has called government weaponization. That's the Newsom reported on yesterday, said if you live in California, they're going to go ahead and seize that money, essentially tax you 100% if you have a claim of government weaponization against you that could be paid out from this $1.8 billion slush fund, the anti-weaponization fund, which is highly suspect to say the least. Trump bought stock in the UFC's parent company while promoting fights set to take place at the White House on his birthday. Snow out there in the audience? Any Canadians? Canada has unexpectedly fallen into a technical recession for the first time since the bad times, 2020. And so what does even a technical recession mean? 2 negative quarters of GDP growth used to be, but who knows nowadays? I haven't even looked up what their new 1984 definition of it is. 5.6% of auto loan balances are now 90 plus days delinquent, the highest level on record, according to the New York Federal Reserve. Trump publicly said, go out and buy Adele at the White House event on May 8th, sending the stock up 13% to a record high, weeks after he personally held $1 to $5 million in Dell shares. And the Dell family had donated $6.25 billion to his newborn savings program. On May 27th, Dell won a $9.7 billion Pentagon software contract. The stock is up over 150% to date. And so there's some secret riddler on the internet that's going to save everybody. Meanwhile, they're stealing everything that ain't nailed down, lying, cheating, and stealing. there. So MAGA should really love that. I thought this was a funny one. Man received 65 months in prison for smuggling almost 2,000 reptiles, not Peter Thiel, excuse me, but real reptiles here now into the U.S. According to the Department of Justice, Jose Miguel Perez brought at least 1,700 box turtles, baby crocodiles, and Mexican-bred lizards to the United States. The fair market value of the animals was estimated to be at over $740,000. So, cracking down on the reptile illicit trades there. And on to the price of the gallon of gasoline, according to AAA national average, and it has gone down about 2 cents. We'll call it 2 cents. Today's price for the gallon of a gallon of gasoline on average, according to AAA, $4.40 across America here. There you go. Looking good. Looking good there for Republicans in the midterms. And here's Scott Bassett. This guy is just pretty ridiculous. Let's hear his claims earlier today.
Normalcy on energy.
Look, the war will end. We'll get to the other side of this. The economy has been very resilient through all this. Look, for many families, it's not nothing, but it's been less than $200 in extra the gasoline cost. And
$200 in extra gasoline costs, he says, is the burden. Well, it turns out, according to Brown University, we can almost double that number. According to Brown University, the Watson School of International and Public Affairs, the U.S. household burden across both gasoline and diesel since the beginning of the Iran war on February 28, 2026, is now up to $382.41. And you could see, yes, the total cost burden on the consumer since the beginning of the Iran war has gone over $50 billion at $50.1 billion. And so this thing is going exponential, a la the national debt and the interest on the national debt. And so I forget what yesterday's number was, but I was like, it'll go over 50. I didn't think it would go that fast, but yes, indeed, it is going that fast. And so we do appreciate this extra cost burden on our household budgets in the golden age. Meme of the day. We have a few out of the Department of War. Our legacy is worth defending, they tell us. America 250. Turns out many of the performers, as reported at the beginning of this show, for this celebration for Trump's birthday, have declined now to perform. So they may have to be forced at the point of a gun to perform. And that's the American way. These guys, Department of War, the Honorable Joseph S. Jewell, PhD assistant to Secretary of War for Science and Technology, delivered remarks at NATO's Science and Technology Organization Applied Vehicle Technology Panel in Bordeaux, France. He said, the discussion and breakthroughs we've shared here in Bordeaux reinforce a critical truth. If you want to secure peace tomorrow, we must innovate together today, said Jewell. Our science and technology integration across NATO ensures our alliance possesses the overwhelming capability that is needed to deter aggression and safeguard our shared values for future generations. Is Skynet live? It's looking like that more and more every day here now across the West. Thankfully, Secretary of War, what do you do with a drunken Hegseth, is signing more bombs, and the Department of War is posting that. We want the biggest, most badass military on the planet, they said. And then, sign the sign of a bomb there. Pete, what do you do with a drunken Hegseth? Secretary of War signing another bomb. Speed and power. Something to be proud of here. And the secret war here on Mexico, Central and South America continues. The head of U.S. Southern Command held a rare meeting earlier today with senior Cuban military officials at the perimeter of Guantanamo Bay to discuss operational security matters. The Cuban delegation included a senior general from Cuba's military leadership, according to a report out of Reuters. So they say Cuba's next. So get ready, Cuba. They're prepping you. U.S. Southern Command Commander Donovan met with Army Corps General. They got so many, their titles are so friggin' long here. Maybe they do that so you don't even read it. Your eyes just glaze over. He met with Cuban military today. U.S. Central Command, or U.S. Southern Command, had posted. Donovan also led a perimeter security assessment of the naval base, Guantanamo Bay, and discussed force protection, safety of service members and their family members, and operational readiness with base officials. And then they posted this picture. See, we're friends, Cuba. We're friends with you, bro. The Western Hemisphere is no longer a passive environment for narco-terrorist criminal syndicates or their sponsors, but the U.S. sponsored some of these don't worry about that. Problem, reaction, solution, Hegelian dialectic, writ large here now with the war on drugs against drug cartels set up by the DEA, CIA, and other U.S. intel agencies. Yes, indeed. This post by U.S. Southern Command went on to say the Littoral Combat Force 24 taking the helm of tactical operations. We are sending an unambiguous message. The United States is committed to defending our homeland and securing a prosperous, stable hemisphere alongside our enduring partners. Direct message from U.S. Southern Command Commander General Francis L. Donovan. They left the quiet part out. I'll fill in the quiet part. We're building the greater North America, as per Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. I see very few report this out there now. For all the genius geopolitical analysts, very few report on the greater North America project. Just saying. That's some of the value that you're getting here at Weaponized News. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. So what is going on here? Are we going to see a major escalation by Russia into Europe, as was been said is going to happen this whole time, right? With that dirty Putin. So the back and forth now. Who shot? Well, NATO says early this morning, an apartment building in Romania was struck by a drone as Russia attacked Ukrainian infrastructure near the border. We condemn Russia's recklessness, and NATO will continue to strengthen our defenses against all threats, including drones. And Russia says, we don't know. We're investigating. But now they're saying this is a direct threat and proof that Russia plans to carry on its unprovoked invasion through Ukraine, all right into mainland Europe. Now, Zelensky said Russia is preparing a new large-scale attack. They said, you guys whacked that boarding school, and now we're pissed off, and so look out, bro. And that's what's happening right now. Putin was out today, and he's saying that we're open for talks. We have never refused to have talks. We're not the ones who stopped them. We're ready to go with them. Putin on Ukraine said, I think what we're seeing right now on the battlefield allows us to say that the situation is coming to an end. Putin's been saying that for a minute here now, that he's looking at winding down the special operation there. I forget the exact phrasing they use, something like special operation, right? And then these drone attacks, Russia goes crazy and bombs Romania with a drone. That's the narrative being painted now. Come full circle, full square here now. Russia, Afghanistan signed a military cooperation deal in Moscow. I thought, Yep, Russia and Afghanistan have now, they had a meeting. They discussed regional security and military cooperation. And the Russian Ministry of Defense has announced they've announced a security deal with a Taliban-led government there out of Afghanistan. And so our foreign policy is working great. Just keep it up, State Department, Pentagon. We're #winning. The UAE secretly carried out dozens of airstrikes against Iran during the heavy fighting period. The attacks targeted military and energy-related sites and continued until after the ceasefire was announced. The UAE took a much more aggressive approach than Saudi Arabia, creating tensions between MBS and MBZ, with both leaders clashing over how to respond to Iran and the greater regional conflict. That's a report out of Wall Street Journal. And this one, Aardvark Land is all pissed off at the UN, as per usual. Now, a new UN report has placed both Aardvark Land armed forces and security forces on its list of parties credibly suspected of committing or being responsible for patterns of conflict-related sexual violence. And then here we have some trigger warning for this report, but some Aardvark hate, anti-Semitism coming out of this Aardvark out of New York protesting the armaments industry.
We, a group of Orthodox rabbis, who came out here in New York City to protest the sale of Palestinian stolen land that is being held in the Hilton Hotel. Came out here to say that all the crimes and actions of the Zionist regime. This is not in the name of Jewish people worldwide, not in the name of Judaism. Our religion, our Torah, condemns all these crimes. This is against our religion, against the Torah, the whole state of Israel, the whole occupation, killing, stealing, occupying is against our Torah, our religion. So we came out.
So clearly that dude, he needs to be sanctioned immediately. Here's Smoke Trick. Smoke Trick counters him and says, it is actually. It says one people, one partnership, one destiny, one mission, and above all, one love, a la Bob Marley. The love of family. Let's hear old, Smoke Trick's, do we have an English translation? You got to see it here at the bottom. We did have an English translation here to counter his fellow aardvark there. Smoke Trick, finance minister of aardvark land, sings a different tune here.
מלא, כדי להבטיח את עתידה של מדינת ישראל ואת עתידו של העם היהודי כולו. אני מברך את משתתפי הכנס בקווינס עכשיו, שכן, ברגעים האלה מצאו לנכון לבוא ולהזדהות עם מדינת ישראל. עם אחד, שותפות אחת, גורל אחד, ייעוד אחד, ובעיקר, אהבה אחת של משפחה. תודה רבה. מלא.
One love. There you go. This is extremely concerning, this report. Congress moves to integrate U.S. aardvark land armies. Key section of 224 2027 NDAA proposes U.S. aardvark land defense technology cooperation initiative. If passed, joint weapons production, AI, quantum, autonomous systems, directed energy, cyber, biotech, plus data fusion and network integration. I'm with Smoke Trick, guys. I don't know about the rest of you. And what about the Yemenis, the Houthis? They say their fingers on the trigger. They've been keeping their powder dry here for a minute. Houthis claim they shot down a U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drone. And the leveling, ethnic cleansing, and genocide of Lebanon is continuing. Here's some footage of that ongoing bombing campaign in southern Lebanon. Wowzers. They are demolitioning the whole joint here now, as per usual, creating an apocalyptic hellscape akin to the Gaza Strip there now in southern Lebanon. Let's take a look at some of these images.
الله أكبر شو هالغارة هي يا ويلاه
There's a report from on the ground there in Tyre, Lebanon, from Courtney Bonu. Someday I'll get my French. I won't because I don't study French, but I'm trying to get her name as close to the correct pronunciation as possible.
I'm reporting to you from the historic city of Sur, which is one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities on the planet. Here with a group of journalists, and we are documenting the damage that has been done by Israeli airstrikes in the last 2 days. There have been multiple So I'm gonna show you some of the damage as we go. Somebody left their dog when they fled. So this neighborhood was destroyed in the war in 2024 as well, and I was here for that. And now they've destroyed it again.
كمان يوم الأربعاء ليلا بدون إنذار.
On the ground there, you can see some of the damage that you can see in those far away shots. There was a meeting today in Washington. Lebanese and Aardvarkland military delegations meet at the Pentagon in first ever direct military talks. Lebanese and Aardvarkland military delegations began talks at the Pentagon today under U.S. sponsorship, the first meeting of strictly military personnel from both countries. Lebanon is prioritizing the establishment of a ceasefire before turning to any broader political or security issues. I thought there's already a ceasefire. No, not so much. They're stacking up, they're whacking Lebanese army as we continue to report here, as well as alleged Hezbollah and a bunch of civilians. The Aardvarkland side said the talks will be led by Levin, head of the strategic division within the Army's planning directorate. No major announcements are expected following the meeting. Lebanon is a essentially U.S. puppet, Western puppet state here now. It just continues the systematic elimination of public health infrastructure there in Lebanon. They whack some more. Well, they hit an Aardvarkland drone hit Islamic Health Committee Center in southern Lebanon, killing one person in that attack, a paramedic. They're targeting the paramedics now. This dude is tragically no longer with us because there's a systematic campaign targeting paramedics, doctors, nurses, anybody with a Band-Aid or a first aid kit at this point. The Lebanese Ministry of Public Health says the death toll since March 2nd, ceasefire, which they're trying to negotiate another ceasefire. Yeah. Since March 2nd, 2026, dead Lebanese is now 3,355 and 10,095 wounded, according to data released earlier today. And so they're still digging people out of the rubble as well. Yesterday's massacre of the Lebanese included 31 dead and 68 injured. And again, still digging victims out of the rubble there. Here's the dashboard of the Lebanon Ministry of Public Health. We can take a look at some of this data. Right there, you can see. We got a 33 and a 55 there today. 3,355 deaths since March 2nd, 2026. You can see right there, and the injuries stacking up as well. Attacks on health care workers. EMS attacks 157. EMS damaged 35. Vehicles damaged. That's the ambulances and whatever else they can use to carry an injured person. 159. EMS dead 122. EMS injuries 234. Systematically wiping out public health infrastructure there in Lebanon. Quite horrific. Total of 77 children have been killed or injured in the last 7 days, according to UNICEF. They're in southern Lebanon. Hezbollah is continuing operations. They've launched a bunch more operations, so that is the ongoing fight as the Lebanese government is negotiating a ceasefire, but there is a ceasefire, but Lebanon's continuing operations there, or excuse me, Hezbollah is continuing operations in Lebanon. They announced a bunch of more operations today. There are 9 operations and 2 more. And so ongoing operations, over a dozen, I'd say now launched by Hezbollah in response to the ground invasion of southern Lebanon by Aardvark land forces. Aardvark land funneling millions through Trump-linked firms to spread digital propaganda in the United States. Aardvark land-linked AI chatbots have been deployed to steer online conversations and feed pro-Aardvark land content into AI platforms such as ChatGPT and Claude. Public disclosures filed under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA, revealed that a firm operated by Brad Parscale, the former campaign manager of U.S. President Donald Trump, has funneled approximately $13 million from the Aardvark land government to a, quote, web of right-wing businesses and Republican digital strategy firms, The Intercept reported today. The operation, which has received over $15 million in total on behalf of the Aardvark land state, is designated to push pro-Aardvark land views across conservative media and digital platforms. These revelations follow the Aardvark land government's decision to more than quadruple its 2026 public diplomacy budget to $730 million. So it's big propaganda. is big business here now. And so they own the Salem radio or Salem Media Group, on many of your conservative talk radio dials. Parscale, serving as chief strategy officer for Salem Media Group, directed over $500,000 to a subsidiary to integrate pro-Aardvark land messaging into conservative programming. The media integration was bolstered by U.S. billionaire Tim Dunn, a staunchly pro-Aardvark land evangelical leader whose foundation provided $70 million to the entity taking Salem Media private. Dunn also co-founded Jackson Parker, a firm sharing office space with other entities in the project constellation of interwoven firms. The partnership launched in September of 2025 with the initial $6 million contract for Parscale's firm, Clock Tower X. Since then, the operation has evolved into a complex web of interconnected political operators utilizing a digital influence campaign playbook. Aardvark Land has built what it calls an eighth front, a parallel digital war fought alongside its military campaign in Gaza aimed at suppressing evidence of its atrocities and flooding global platforms with state-engineered counter-narratives. The operation combines mass reporting campaigns, algorithmic ad targeting, and AI-assisted content generation to erase unfavorable content and replace it with propaganda. Tel Aviv has poured hundreds of millions of dollars into the effort, contracting influencers, lobbying firms, and ad networks across the US and Europe, while covert fake account operations have targeted US lawmakers and smeared humanitarian organizations. The Aardvark Land government's Attorney General Cyber Unit filed nearly 9,500 takedown requests in the first 6 months of the Aardvark Land genocide in Gaza alone, with Meta allegedly complying with 94% of those takedown requests. Well, you guys were told, if you would just listen, stop posting your war crimes on the internet, and they wouldn't have all this evidence to indict you in the International Criminal Court. So it's kind of a lot on you guys, honestly. I mean, just calling it how it is, calling balls and strikes here. It's on you guys. You were warned by the IDF. Stop posting the war crimes. Netanyahu can't stop. The troops can't stop. The bloodlust and it just can't stop. And so it's really on you guys. I mean, let's be honest about this whole situation, about why you're looked down upon now. You kept posting your war crimes on the internet and you wouldn't stop. Okay. And you've been warned multiple times by your own Aardvark government to stop, and you refuse to. It's on you guys, bro. Head of the fisherman syndicate in Gaza. Remember, they're whacking you. You try to go out in your little boat to get a fish, and they whack you. They said what fishermen are being subjected to is a comprehensive and systemic campaign of destruction. Same campaign across their ag industry, olives, sheeps, cattle, fishing, public health. Systematic destruction campaign against anything and everything that could sustain life there. indeed the aardvark way. In Gaza, all men of military age are deemed legitimate targets. A military age is really open to interpretation. It could be from 16 to 60 or even younger. Most of the people that my unit killed were not armed. And that's testimony out of a post by The Economist. Here now. From a IDF soldier that is now having regrets about his actions while serving. We had cases when my unit killed a lot of people and we didn't check if they had uniforms or weapons. They often couldn't tell who they were fighting. Figures scuttling through the rubble hundreds of meters away could be anyone, someone on guard duty. See someone, shoots him, kills him. Now there's a dead person. We wouldn't know what his story was or what he did. Other testifiers talked about the dog line, an invisible boundary around a position. Any Palestinian who crossed it would be shot. Dogs gathered along it to eat the corpses. And again, that's testimonies from former IDF soldiers. They're in an article published by The Economist. So it doesn't get more mainstream than that. So maybe they should point their propaganda efforts inward, or how about stop this whole campaign of genocide? That could help as well. That could help as well. Here's Gaza City getting bombed in a heavily populated residential area. And so what didn't Bibi say they're up to, or they're pushing 70% occupation of Gaza, and they're going about the systematic occupation, leveling the joint. A 10-year-old Palestinian boy whose father was killed in Aardvarkland airstrike suffered severe facial injuries and serious brain injuries. And there's video of it. I won't show it. It's quite horrific. And another one, dead kid laying on the stretcher, just like blowing apart. Young wounded children arrive at Gaza hospital yesterday after fresh round of Aardvarkland airstrikes killed at least 14 Palestinians across northern Gaza. They're bombing the people in the tents at the refugee camps. We showed images and reports of that yesterday. And there's video and images of the kids blowing apart. It's horrific. What was this? Earlier today, Aardvarkland forces have carried out a series of raids across the occupied West Bank, including storming homes. And they're storming in people's homes and kicking them out all over the occupied West Bank. Clashes erupted between Palestinian residents and Aardvarkland forces during a raid in Jabba's south of Jenin. Global Samud flotilla submit accounts of torture and sexual violence by Aardvarkland forces to the ICC. A delegation of legal representatives, victims, and medical personnel for the Global Samud flotilla submitted an official communication to the International Criminal Court in The Hague earlier today, accusing Aardvarkland military commanders and top political leaders of war crimes, crimes against humanity, torture, and conduct relevant to genocide. The submission stems from the forcible interception of the flotilla's vessel on April 29th through the 30th and May 18th through the 19th this year, 2026, which the group says involved a serious violation of humanitarian law against unarmed civilian volunteers, including journalists, medics, and human rights defenders. The GSF called on all states parties to the Rome Statute to refer the situation to the court immediately and deemed independent investigations, arms embargoes, and reparations for the victims. UN report details rape, gang rape, and genital violence against Palestinian detainees by Aardvarkland forces. The United Nations Security General's report submitted to the Security Council verifies 31 victims of sexual violence linked to Aardvarkland forces in 2025 against 14 men, 7 women, 9 children, and 1 girl across detention facilities in Gaza and the West Bank, according to a report out of Haaretz. Reported on the UN report. So there you go. Quite horrific there indeed. Here's the screenshot of that out of Haaretz there. Quite horrific indeed. All right, let's get to, that's all the reporting I got for today, to see if any headlines have a big explosion happened since we've been on the air. Yesterday, that Bezos rocket blew up, right? There was a big explosion. Is there any big explosions going on here in the Iran war? Trump leaves Situation Room without decision. That was earlier today. Yeah, we're in a Persian stalemate, essentially, there in the Strait of Hormuz and the Iran war, for that matter, with Iran seeking heavy sanctions relief and freeing up of frozen assets. And so Supreme Leader Khomeini, who regime changed, but Khomeini's still in charge in Iran, says that, 2 of the 10 points of the peace deal are cool and the rest not so much. Like, that's where we're at. Not good in terms of bringing about an end to the Iran war. I don't see how Iran can do it with the ongoing ethnic cleansing genocide going on in Lebanon. I honestly don't see how they can. Well, they said. Did we go offline there? We went offline for a second. Pardon me. They said at the beginning of all this, stop the genocide in Gaza, stop the incursions into Lebanon. Now that's escalated. And so I don't see how any of this can be possible without Aardvarkland army stopping. But they only seem to be intensifying operations here now, as they're hell bent on building out their Aardvarkland project, as we continue to report here now. And anytime any peace deal gets close, they do a big attack. You know what I mean? So looks like underhandedly thwarting peace efforts there by our greatest ally in West Asia. Quite horrific. Let's pray for peace over this weekend. Hope things don't kick off hot and heavy. It could kick off hot and heavy at any time. Everybody, all sides, have said our fingers on the trigger, just waiting for this thing to kick off hot and heavy again. as little skirmishes continue in the Strait of Hormuz against Iran's Navy that's been destroyed, but we still have shooting matches going on there somehow. Maybe aliens are directing the Iranian Navy at this point. All right, let's, I'm going to click through, triple click, try to get to the Odysee channel here now. And again, I think we shall see. We are streaming live on the Odysee. It takes a minute to get there. All right. Over to the Odysee. Huffman, Fat Bob, Deep, Highland. Thank you guys for tuning in there. Eileen. There was no much chat on the Rumble today for some reason. Not much chat over there. Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in and chatting it up there. Fat Bob says, is mankind convinced all our times have come or what? Just more hoodwinking by our controllers. It's just more hoodwinking by our controllers, in my opinion, in my humble opinion here now. Yeah. Yeah, they're talking about the tunnel. John's talking about the tunnels, aardvark tunnels, that the Hobbot, that'd be a new word, Hobbot Ratchniks, right? The ritual, yeah. We're talking about ritual. Talking about ritualistic murders of Christians by Habbots. It's historical fact, not blood libel, John said. Indeed, but they'll still scream blood libel. So that's where we're at with that. Man, I need you guys, I guess I need you guys to go to YouTube and take care of this Q troll that was in there. I guess I ran him off myself. I don't know. But we had a big Q troll over there on the YouTube chat for a minute. I don't know what all that was about. But Patriot Watcher on YouTube says, I call our local Detroit news all the time. I tell them we need to take the aardvark out of the news and put the truth back in. Well, Patriot Watcher, I'm telling you, Salem Network is a large progenitor of that propaganda here in America, led by Brad Parscale, former campaign manager of Donald Trump. And I think it's wrong that any foreign country's propaganda is allowed to be pumped over American airwaves the way it is. Aardvark land, Russia, China, you name them. We don't need any of that. We got enough of our own freaking problems here. And our own country's so divided against each other, right? It's, man, what a mess we find ourselves in here now. Yeah, A-Dub missed them. You missed the Q troll. If you look in the comments, it's up there. Just, okay, you're not going to convince people that it's all good. I mean, and you come in here to the comments, it's obviously probably a bot. Who knows? But insulting people, cussing, just acting a fool, right? Like, you're not convincing anybody of your side at all, which I guess is by design to just create more division. It's ridiculously stupid and not wanted here at Weaponized News. All right, friends, thank you for tuning in on the Odysee, keeping that chat lively and cordial and informative, as it should be. Weaponized News over there on the Odysee, the chat there, how it should be. Thank you for tuning in on Kick, Bitchute, Substack, Rumble, and YouTube. Said that AOC wore a hijab today in New York. Hey, it's her right, Chloe, to convert to Islam and be oppressed by them, and wear a beekeeper suit for that matter if she likes. This is America, First Amendment. Even though we know it's she's an actress, and that's the left-wing flavor to play you that any of their puppet politicians up there are going to save the day. Let's see here. Jimmy, the gas station has Trump diaper syndrome. Oh, man. Yeah, it's played out. And yeah, you're like, well, I can't afford to eat. Well, you have Trump derangement syndrome. It's just played out lame already. Like, it doesn't hit. Now, the right can't meme. You see, it used to be the left can't meme. Now the right can't meme. All due to Trump. And so, yeah, it's just all played out. It's all lame. The insults don't hit anymore. And everybody can see inflation's eating us alive here now. And so all the fun and games are over when you can't afford fuel, all engineered by the nuclear threat of 2 weeks, which we thoroughly debunked here. So enjoy, MAGA. RMD says American peasants fight each other under guise of left-right while they fund a genocide and allow PDFs to boss them around in government. Yeah. Boiler Room's live, Max says. So head on over to Boiler Room. I'm going to sign off here. Appreciate the cordial comments in the chats. Appreciate the cordial comments in the chats. All right, guys, as always, everybody do your own research. Peace, love, and freedom. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Friday evening and great weekend. Let's pray for peace and tune into Ruckus and the crew over on the Boiler Room. It's live now. I'm informed in the chat here. Have a great weekend. Let's pray for peace. We'll see you on Monday.